You're at the Strengthening Your Application webinar. This is going to be a 1-hour webinar. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about a little bit about the background of the program. That's going to be 5 minutes. For those of you who have been to info sessions, you will have seen some of this. In ELAB and ABCT, that will just take about a minute. And then we're going to talk about networking, which is one of the big interests of people in participating in the ELAB and ABCT programs. Lastly, we're going to spend the bulk of the time going through the application and covering sections 1 through 7. So a couple of things. If you have questions, we are muting everyone except my line. So we welcome questions. We ask you to please write them in the chat box. We have a facilitator who will be reading out all the questions. If we get to the end of the time and your question hasn't been answered, please, there are many emails in here to contact the ELAB or ABCT program staff. So we welcome getting your email, the question, and you're also welcome to call us. Again, you are at the combined ELABNYC and ABCT program Strengthening Your Application webinar. This will last 1 hour. We will be wrapping up at 1 o'clock. And this is how we'll be spending the time for the next hour. So to start off, we're going to just go through what the program is. The program has 5 components to it. These components start with what we're doing right now, which is meeting. This is pre your application. We will be talking with tech transfer offices this month. We've been doing info sessions throughout the past 5 weeks. We have a number that are still left. If you want to go to an in-person meeting, what we ask you to do is go to the website for the elabnyc.com program or go to the abct.co website, and under both of the main menus you'll see a program schedule. The list of upcoming info sessions is there along with RSVPs. We do ask you to RSVP because some of the buildings have building security lists, and we need you to be on the building security list in order to admit you to the building. The webinar we're on right now is the only one we do with Strengthening Your Application to the ELAB and ABCT program. This is a webinar that is focused on your being able to fine-tune your application and primarily to give you feedback about what the external screeners have provided to us as comments about about their individual screening of applications. So the next step is to submit your application. That date is October 22nd and October 23rd, depending upon which program you're applying to in New York City or in Connecticut. After that, the screening process begins. And just to review how the screening process works, there are 4 different screens. The first is an external screen. There are 3 reviewers for every application. There's a science screener, there is a business strategy screener, and there's an investor screener. The result of those screens is a rank ordering of all of the applications. Following that, there are personal references that are called in November. So when you complete your application, please make sure that you tell your references that they will be called in November and sometime in the first 3 weeks. They do need to be available. We do complete 3 calls. If we are not able to get hold of someone, we get back in touch with you and ask for another name and phone number. So that's very important. We'll come back to that later on in this webinar. The next step is the finalists are asked to an in-person interview. And for that in-person interview, those dates are already set. They will be in New Haven for the ABCT program on November 27th. They will be in for the New York City program, it will be in the Chrysler Building on November 28th or November 30th. You will get an email stating that you're a finalist by the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So that will happen fairly soon toward the end. We seem to be having a problem with the audio here. We're trying to mute all the lines so that this is a clean line. Let me continue.
Audio controls. Please enter.
After the teams are selected to participate, there is a program orientation. The dates for the program orientation in Connecticut are December 13th. The date for the program orientation in New York City is December 12th. The boot camp starts in January. It's 2 days a week for 3 weeks. You could see what the dates are. It will be held in Midtown in Manhattan, and we will be providing you the location of the boot camp for the Connecticut cohort in the next month. Following the boot camp, you will be working with coaches. That will go from February until May. That's a weekly coaching call that's held online. That call is 3 hours and can be made from your laptop, and that schedule will be set up between you and 2 additional ventures that are in the program along with your coach. So that schedule will be set up around your schedules in the end of January, beginning of February. As part of that education process, there is also workshops that are held. Those are held every week. Wednesday mornings, they are held by webinar, and they are 1 hour long, and that is 8:30 in the morning till 9:30 in the morning. Following that, you start meeting mentors. We spend a lot of time working after we admit the class, developing a custom mentor network. You're introduced to your mentors at the time that the coaching starts in February, and those mentors work with you through the end of the program, which would be June of 2019. In order to facilitate networking, we have very small roundtable dinners. The roundtable dinners for the New York City program are held monthly, all in New York City, once a month, February, March, April, and May. And the roundtable dinners for the Connecticut cohort are held also once a month, February, March, April, and May. The February and the April events for the Connecticut ventures are held in New York City, and the April event is going to be co-located for both the ELAB and the ABCT ventures, so you will have a chance to meet one another. The other opportunity for you to meet one another is at Pitch Day. Pitch Day is April 11th. It is in Manhattan, and this year, with the agreement of New York City EDC and the state of Connecticut, the event will be co-located. So there will be both teams from the New York City and the Connecticut programs who will be in the program. Coaching, mentoring, and workshops continue after Pitch Day through the end of May. And in June, there is a debrief where we have you reflect on what you have learned over the course of the previous 6 months and provide us input for the planning of the following year's program. So that is the program. ABCT and ELAB have the same program. One of the questions that people have is, what is the outcomes of this program? So what we see from the 2018 ELABNYC participants' outcomes, 20 ventures were invited to participate. Collectively, they raised $7.3 million during the program. There were 2 corporate partnerships that were secured during the program, and 4 of the ventures had their first customer revenue during the program. When you look at the outcomes from the ABCT program, that cohort is smaller. There are 12 ventures that are invited, 11 completed the program. $4.2 million was raised during the program, and 3 had their first customer revenues. There's a lot more information about the programs if you're interested in the outcomes by going to the elabnyc.com website and clicking on the homepage on the impact report. Similarly, on the abct.co website, you can find the impact report for that program. But those are some of the reasons that people come, and it also gives you a sense of the different stages at which the ventures are at. We do have a wide range of ventures, from ventures who are in therapeutics, who are just starting work on their preclinical stage molecules and biologics, and we have ventures that are just beginning to sell product. So it's an important mix and a lot to learn from the participants that are in your program cohort, as well as from the mentors, the coaches, and the corporate supporters. So let's talk about who it is that one particular participant ended up meeting in their network development during the program. Balan Graham is a postdoc when he came in from Rockefeller. He had relationships with the Karolinska Institute when he came in, and when he came in, he was in the 2014 cohort, and he was able to, through the number of venues and opportunities for networking, be able to connect to other members of the cohort from Weill, from Burke, from Columbia, from CUNY and Stevens. And those were, the one with Columbia ended up being an additional research effort and indication that he pursued with his work. And there was collaboration also with Weill Cornell that came out of that. The mentors that chose to work with him included an angel from Mid-Atlantic BioAngels, one of the foundations here in New York City, Alzheimer's Drug Discovery, and 2 pharmas. At roundtables, he connected with additional legal support for the formation of his company, and also with important market research and strategy organizations, as well as another organization, Pfizer, with which he ended up concluding a partnership through the Pfizer CTI program. Lastly, at Pitch Day, he met a number of people who were both other entrepreneurs as well as funders of the early stage bioscience community. So this is what the program is known for. It's known for the network development, and it's a custom network development that we spent a lot of time thinking about who we could recruit to be mentors. Mentors pick you. You can also ask to be connected to specific mentors, and at roundtables, we select a few number of people for you to meet so that you have a chance to actually speak with them in a group that might be twice the size of the number of the people who are in the program. So 40 for New York City and maybe 25 to 30 in Connecticut. So That's the introduction. Now it's time to go into the application, which is what we're here to do. A couple of things that are overarching about this application you should be aware of. The first one is about the software platform itself. The software that underlies the link for the application is called Cognito. That allows you to upload multiple files, not just one, but multiple files. And it allows you to add links to your answers, and it allows, importantly for the screeners, their ability to format your answers in a nice readable package. That's very important for them because we're trying to make it as easy for them as possible. We have a new capability this year, which is great for everybody, which is that you can save the application and you can return to it. That means that whatever you drafted up to this point before you came to this workshop is able to be edited and refiled. So you should have a link if you have saved your application that you can go back to and you can change. So if you hear something in this workshop that makes you want to update or change your application, that is now a capability with the software platform that we use. We have a goal for this application that a reviewer can complete it in 20 minutes. So that's not a lot of time. When you submit other grant applications, people may be spending multiple hours to do a first round pass. They may be spending hours talking to you afterward. That is not what we have from the screeners. We have 20 minutes. So one of the burdens on you with a group that is spending a short amount of time is to be very concise and edit your answers so that they can get at the heart of your answers in a 20-minute cycle. We limit the number of applications a screener can review to 4 applications. Because of the nature of the technology, they are not the same reviewers for the different applications. We have scientists who are experts in the field in which you are applying. There are many different types of technology that you can select when you submit your application. This is one of the methods that we use to match you to a screener. So do not select, if there are priority areas that your technology you feel is applicable in, select those and don't select all of them. You don't get any extra points if your technology can work in many, many applications. And if you feel like your application would be reviewed more strongly within a certain area, indicate that when you are selecting the fields and the indications and the types of technology. The other thing that we talked about already was the screeners' backgrounds. So there are scientists who review these applications. There are also business strategists, so they may come from market strategy firms. They may come from firms that are very big corporations, and they may do the strategy work, the corporate business development work within those firms. They may be people who have been looking broadly at trends in technology and in life sciences. Those would be the types of people who would fill that second slot of a screener. The third slot of a screener is someone who is currently investing in your area. And those individuals could be from foundations, they could be from VCs, they could be angels, they could be from corporate venture arms. They could be from corporate business development arms. They could be from organizations that have come together and have indicated that they have an interest to see advances in certain areas. So there is a variety of people that also might fit into the third category of screeners. So let's move on and talk about prioritization. We have had challenges with people filing more than one application. Please let us know if you have filed more than one. You want to make sure that we are reviewing the most complete one and the one you want us to review. Don't let us guess. You can make notes in Section 1 and Section 7 to indicate that this is the final application that you're filing. One of the things that we have found, because the screeners do write comments in their application, they don't just pick numbers on a scale. There's a lot of comments, there's a lot of questions that they ask that we will bring back to the following steps of the screening process and present to you. But one of the things that they do comment on is spelling and grammar and links. So please check your spelling, check the grammar, check to make sure that there are no broken links before you hit submit. They really don't like that. It seems like a crazy little picayune thing given what all we're doing, but it's something that we do here, and you don't want to be in a situation where people are hesitating about your application because of something you can fix. Lastly, I want to talk about non-confidential information. So this program is non-confidential. In other words, we do not ask people to sign NDAs, and we are only looking for non-confidential information in this application. We do this to protect you so that if you are developing something that is not yet protected in a patent, you haven't figured out the strategy of maybe you want to protect it with trade secrets, maybe you have a desire to do some more work and add some more data to it, you can do that without any concern that you will have to release your confidential information to anyone. This also means that you're going to have to learn how to compellingly describe your innovation in a non-confidential manner. That's a super important skill. It's one that everybody who's an innovator has to both learn and practice and continue learning and practicing for their entire career. So it's part of the philosophy of this program that this is non-confidential. So if you have any questions about that, I know that this is a new world for many of you. We are glad to talk that through with you. Specifically, what that means is that we do not want to see provisional patent applications attached to your application. We don't want to see unpublished papers uploaded and included with your application. We don't want to see data that you haven't secured or published included with your application. You may wonder what you can do in that case is you can talk about what other people say about the impact of your breakthroughs or your research, and that can help convey and validate the meaningfulness of the work that you're doing. But we're not, again, you're welcome to call us and talk through this, and but we do not want to see any confidential information in your application. We're now ready to start with part one. Part one, personal information. So these are a couple of things that we just want to remind you about, and processes that we've come up with. The first process is that the we need a lead for every team who's submitting an application. We need a team leader. That doesn't have to be the team leader for anything but the application, but we need one person that we can communicate with. If we have a problem accessing any information or tracking someone down, we need to be able to call you and tell you what's going on. If we have a reference check that the phone number doesn't turn out to go to who we are trying to reach, we need to be able to get a hold of one person and get this stuff sorted out. So you need to identify a team leader who is going to be the main person that we're going to correspond with through the through the application process. You can change who the team leader is afterward, but that is something that we need one person for. We have a couple of questions here. One is about how long does it take to fill out the application. A lot of this depends upon the situation with whether you have filled out an application like this before. And secondly, another big delta in the application time frame is whether you have talked to your tech transfer officer if you need to, if you do not have the technology in your firm. If you have not, those can add a lot of time to it. So you should start now if you haven't, and if you have, you're in a lot better shape and you should be fine, finishing it up. Let's go through the more of this application questions and we'll come back to this. The second issue is that we do need to get your email address, phone number. We want your cell phone because we need to be able to get hold of you different ways. We need to understand your current affiliation. That means if you are working at a company, let us know that. If you are starting a company that's outside that company, you just make that clear to us. If you have if you're at a university and you're going to be at the university while you're running this, we want to know that. So this is what we mean by current affiliation. And if you have any questions, again, give us a call or send an email and we'll help you sort through that. We just want to understand what your situation is. And we'll come back to this LinkedIn. If you have not created a LinkedIn profile, please do. What we are finding increasingly is that the screeners are checking people out on LinkedIn. So go ahead and help them create a LinkedIn profile and fill it out so that they can understand who you are. That's a useful thing that's you can start doing now. We have a question about, while it's called personal information, a number of people, about half people have more than one person on who is applying. Your team may have multiple people. If you have more than 3, you send us an email. We want to talk to you about that. But because we have to make sure we have room for all the team members. We did have an application for someone who had 9 team members. We were not able to accommodate all of them, so we had to work out who was coming to what. We do need to get resumes for each team member that is going to be participating in this program. So get that information in. So that's the personal information. Let's continue. We have an important piece of information about eligibility. Okay, so here's who is eligible to participate in the ELABNYC program. You have to have a New York City affiliation. This is a program that was started by NYC EDC. So the ELAB program rules are that to be eligible, you have to work in New York City. You have to live or have a residence address in New York City, or you have to use New York City Research Institution IP. So if you, and you don't have to do all 3, you can work in New York City, you can live in New Jersey or Long Island or Westchester or Connecticut, and you can use IP from outside of that area, right? So we had somebody who had University of Maryland IP, they worked in New York City, and they lived outside the 5 boroughs. That's fine. We've had people who had IP out of Stevens. They lived in New York City, but they worked outside of New York City. So you don't have to have all 3, in other words. I'm just giving you different examples of this, but you do have to have one of these. The Connecticut rules now, if you're applying to the ABCT program, you can work in Connecticut, you can live in Connecticut, you can use Connecticut Research Institution IP. If you have any questions about this, please talk to Brian Pan. And here's an email address, and I think we could copy those email addresses and put them in the chat box for Brian and for Isabel. These are people that you can talk to get, if you have questions about this. There are many, many specific situations here. We understand that. We're here to talk this stuff through. The question about team leader, team member, and splitting up who's coming to different things, you can see the calendar of events for the whole program year through June of 2019. One of the things we need is someone who is able to attend the entire boot camp. We need to have continuity, so you can't break up the boot camp. That has to be the same person. And the person who's at the boot camp also has to attend all of the coaching sessions. So you can have an addition to that, but we're not able to accommodate people, a number of people coming in and out. The reason for that is that the way the program is run, we do not repeat any information. And we move very, very quickly through it. So we're not able to provide that kind of support. So we need to have a commitment that you can be available. And that's going to be part of what's in the application. Are you available for all these dates? That's why we give you the dates so you can check your calendar. Okay, let's move on. Submitting an application with someone who's on multiple teams. We haven't had this in a couple of years, but we keep this in here because we're thoughtful about this coming back. If you someone can only participate on one team coming through the program. They can't participate on multiple teams. So if you have someone on your team, ask them, make sure they're not applying on another team. We will only allow a person to participate on one team. There's often a question about 60-65% of the participants in the New York City program are foreign-born, about 15% in Connecticut after the first cohort are foreign-born. It is more important for us that you're speaking English than you're writing English. So it is a lot of speaking. So that's a part of the program. You will get a lot of training in how to talk with a business vocabulary. But there is a lot of room, obviously, with, more than half of the people being foreign nationals for English as a second language. Let me move on to affiliations. Some people ask, is a university affiliation necessary to participate? It is not necessary to participate. The university affiliation is fine. You could be a grad student, a postdoc, faculty. We've had chairs of departments. We've had the dean of one of the medical centers. We've actually had a president of one of the medical centers all participate. It is not necessary to have a university affiliation. I will mention that there is a webinar tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. that's being led by one of the full-time faculty PIs who just went through the Connecticut program, Barry Kosofsky. If you have any questions about participating as a full-time faculty, doing grant writing and research, tune in and you can hear how Barry did it. He was also a clinician. He runs a pediatric neurology clinic at Weill Cornell, and he'll talk frankly about you know, how this all worked for him in launching his business. The next thing we want to talk about, the LinkedIn profile. You know, just, you know, kind of briefly get it done. You know, you can look at other people's LinkedIn profiles to get ideas if you don't already have one, or to see about how you might complete yours. But we do know that the screeners check out your LinkedIn profile, so do make an effort to get it completed so that you could reach, you know, have that available, because people will check that out. There's a question about listing the link for the Friday morning webinar, and we will add the link to the RSVP for Barry Kosofsky's lecture tomorrow at 9. Resumes, CVs, please include any awards and publications. It's amazing how many times we've come to a finalist and in an interview we've learned that they won an award or that they have a publication. Please make sure you include that information in your application and your CV and resume. Continuing on about the next section now, we're in the company information. If you have a company, and I will say that over time, about 60% of the people who get into the program have a company, which means that 40% do not. So this is why it's if applicable. What you want to do is include your company name, your address with the city and state, provide a website address if you've got it, and the date of incorporation. I will say that some people have gone and incorporated their business very quickly before they apply. It's not necessary, but you can do it. It will raise a red flag if you incorporate your business as someone did in Oregon. It is a red flag for us. We will call you and talk to you about it. It doesn't mean you're disqualified, but we're going to want to know whether you intend to set up a business in New York City or in Connecticut. If we see something like that on the application. Again, doesn't mean you're disqualified, but you should expect a call to have you explain that. We do want to know about funding and awards. I'll say this again. Let us know how much money you've received and what the source is. That includes friends and family, angels, VCs, foundations, any government agency awards like the NIH, any SBIRs, any foundations. The other thing that is important is if you have been funded by NIH, please let us know the year that you've received this and the dollar amounts in agency. So we've given some examples of this on this page, like NIH, NCI, or Susan G. Komen Foundation, or ADDF. Let us know where this funding might come from. Of course, these aren't the only ones. You might be getting international money. You may have other sources of funds. Let us know how that works. This is a very international community that we work with, and there are lots of sources of funding and sources of support, including challenge grants and matching grants that you may be working with. Let us know about those as you're putting this company information together. Okay, we're going to continue on with the company information. Just to restate, in 2013, 60% of the accepted teams were companies. That went up to 75%. In 2014, it went back down, and we were in 2017 back at about 60%. So it does vary. Some years it's a little bit more. That's the New York City numbers. We were about the same number it was in the 70s in Connecticut, of the number of companies that applied, that got in, that had a university. Can I ask you not to? Is it possible? Can you please write the question into the chat box, and then we'll answer? Yeah, that would be helpful. Oh, thank you. There, again, it's not going to influence us one way or not if you are a company or if you're not a company. So don't worry about it. Don't feel like you have to go out and become a company before you apply. But we do share these numbers so you know that. We've talked about the eligibility in New York City. There are people who move to New York City to participate in this program. Every year there have been. We sometimes accept them. Some years there are a lot of people who move to the city to participate. We saw a number of New York City-based research institution PIs take the Connecticut program because they lived in Connecticut. So, we're going to learn some more about how this works and how this whole community is already integrated as we're running the Connecticut program as well as the New York City program. If you have received university funding or awards, if you've won business plan competitions, if you participated in programs at universities that are entrepreneurship oriented or learning how to do licenses, let us know. We like that. We have good relationships with a lot of these programs and know people who are teaching them and are encouraging people to start up businesses. So please do include if you have taken any entrepreneurship programs at the university. We're not looking for grades or, how you did it. What we're just trying to understand is what you've been exposed to. So it isn't a useful thing to include. If you did it 4 years ago or you did it, this fall, let us know that too. That's the kind of specifics that could be really helpful for us. Okay, we're going to move on to technology innovation. This hour goes pretty quickly. The major questions are these. What category would you use to classify your innovation? What's your innovation status? What is the source of your technology innovation? And do you have IP or intellectual property, which would include a patent or trademark? In general, we care about the patents. So let's go through the answers to this. And so you don't get any extra points for selecting multiple categories. In the first couple of years, people selected all of the categories. So just be aware that this is also used when you select categories as a matching mechanism for screeners. So if you feel like there are better categories that could more favorably review your application, list those. Now, you don't have to second guess the whole thing. We're not asking you to just pick one if you've got a bunch, but it doesn't help you if you select all of the categories. The second question, where there's some questions that often come up, is question 7, field of use. And the idea is, what does this mean? Again, you don't have to select all of these. It's not going to get you any extra points. So think about what, maybe it's the area, the field that you feel you know most about. Maybe you've done studies in one field, but you think there are multiple other fields. Think about that as you're answering that. And there's often places where you can add additional information, and you can add that certainly in section 7. Innovation status is really important to us. The idea has got to be a big idea, just because of the nature of who all applies. It doesn't necessarily mean the idea isn't valuable if it's a smaller idea. It's just you're going to be competing with other people who have bigger ideas. So in general, people are very interested in groundbreaking ideas. Now, the question is, how far along do you have to be? If you don't have any data and it's just a hypothesis, that can be kind of hard to convince a screening group. Okay, they respond very well to prototype, proof of concept data. So if you've got it, again, if it's not published, you don't have to share it, but if you have the data, you do want to let the screeners know that you've got that. We do admit people who are generating revenue, but that doesn't necessarily guarantee you're going to get in. Because if the science isn't compelling, or if there's a concern that someone might scoop what you're doing because you don't have any IP behind the science or what you're doing, that it can result in people even with revenue not getting in. So the last thing is, where's the source of the technology? So, there are a lot of variation here, maybe more than people think. When it started, most of the New York City applicants who got in had technology out of an academic source. That has varied year to year. In the Connecticut program, there is a lot of non-academic based IP. There are more spin-outs of major companies. There are people who have experience who have been in startups and they're doing a next generation startup, and the IP is not out of an academic institution. So we are open to both. And I would say that independent startups, either spin-outs of existing companies, are fine with us, or startups. And one of the things that we then spend a lot of time doing is trying to sort out through this screening process exactly where where's the source of the IP. What we're trying to do is make sure that you do have access to work with it. If you have worked on a technology but you don't have the right to use it, then developing a business plan isn't going to help a whole lot. So we are willing to work with ventures who don't have the IP in the venture. However, we need to understand exactly where you stand with the idea before we let you into the program. So more important than where the source of this technology is who controls it at the time at which you apply. So sometimes that will require you having conversation with a lawyer. Go ahead and talk with a patent attorney, or if you're still at a research institution, with a tech transfer office. Most of the tech transfer offices in Connecticut and New York City know the program, and you can tell them that you're applying and you're trying to understand what the status is of the technology at this point. We'll come back to that. We'll now go on to the section about short response questions. The question that often we get questions about is, what's your personal statement about what do you about yourself? And these are really the basic questions we want to see answered. These three: what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to learn? And what's your commitment to attending all program dates? And the dates are here, but you can also find them on the websites under the program schedule. So those are the 3 points that we want to see. Your expectations are in line with what we can help you with. There are some skills, knowledge, people you want to meet, learn, that we can actually provide you skills, knowledge, or connections to, and you're committed to attending all the events. That's what that question boils down to. The issue around your availability has some really important implications for the program. Number one, a number of the people want to meet people. A number of the people that we work with are extremely busy. They can, head off and travel at a moment's notice. When they do that, they may not be able to participate in a program that we event that we thought they were going to come in. So we have to be flexible to meet their schedules. So as a result, we need people who are going to participate in the programs to attend in every single program event. So really look at the calendar of activities. We list locations, not the actual physical building, but where they're going to be held, the dates and the times now, so you can check your schedule and you can set aside these times. We need you to come to everything. If you're in a team and you have the chance to trade off some people coming to roundtables, that's fine. But we do need you to come to the entire boot camp, and we need you to come to pitch day, and we need you to come to the other program activities. If you don't, one of the things that happens is that people develop a impression that you are not committed to starting your venture, which is going to backfire on you and the program. So really make sure that you have the availability to attend. If you don't, maybe this is not the year to apply. Now let's go through part 4, the technology innovation statement. Again, non-confidential information. These are very few words. We are aware of that. This means that this is probably where, if you have not been able to boil down these concepts into a few words, you're going to end up spending a lot of time. This is not easy to do, to boil this down to 25 words to explain what you're doing in one sentence. It's very tough to describe your problem in 250 words. This is an exercise in and of itself. So I would highly recommend you spend time really thinking, show it to other people, get people's feedback, make sure other people can understand it after you've edited it. Those are really good approaches to get a strong application. Let's continue with the business idea. One of the things that's very interesting that screeners will point out is the lack of consistency between what a problem is and what a solution is. Have somebody else read it, and that's a tip so that you can make sure that when you describe a solution, it's actually describing what you, a solution to a problem that you just articulated. Again, make sure it's non-confidential. Know that biz dev people and some funders are not as technical. They're not necessarily scientists, so make sure that you have an answer that they can understand. And understand that having problems and challenges is not a bad thing. So if you are able to articulate those, that's great. Don't worry that shows some kind of weakness in your ideas. Most anybody who's starting something is going to have some weaknesses, and being aware of what those are is a useful thing. It can help us also assess whether there is a capability we have to actually help you at this time with your venture. References. These are super important. This can be any number of people. It could be a PI, an advisor, a mentor, an investor, someone you've talked to about starting the company. It could be a customer. There are a couple of things that we have said we have experienced as not so productive. People who you knew 20 years ago, if you haven't kept up with them, that's not been helpful. Family members, of course, there's always an exception to this, and we have had an application that was accepted where the applicant's father was a clinician in the field in which the engineer was developing a medical device. The fact that clinician worked in a humongous clinical practice, is the biggest one west of the Mississippi, helped. But I would say that it was a very skeptical process of getting that reference at the beginning of that. So just be careful about family and make sure that whoever you have is available to talk in the first 3 weeks of November with somebody from the program. We have a question about where's the scientific data go. That is going to be in the problem and in the solution, so it'll be in the previous section. Make sure that you or your principal have informed your principal investigator or head of lab that you are applying to this program, and make sure you know who the technology transfer officer is who's assigned to your lab from your research institution. If you do not know who that is, call your technology transfer organization. If you can't connect, give us a call. We have worked with most of them and may be able to give you a help, but you really need to go to them if you haven't already to sort that out. We've talked about the references, and let me just state the questions that we're going to ask the tech transfer office under 13, so you know, and you can talk to them up front and make sure that they give these answers. So when you write in the tech transfer office or contact and we call them, call that phone number and arrange to speak with them about you, they need to be able to say that your team, including you specifically, and if you've got a partner, are applying to the program this year. They need to know which technology, some people have multiple patents, is being proposed to be commercialized. They need to be able to say that they're willing to enter into a negotiation with you to license the technology. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get the license, but you need to be able to enter into a negotiation to license the technology. You have to be willing to do that. And we're going to ask them to sign a document saying that they will not market the technology while you are taking the ELAB or ABCT program. So those are the questions that we're going to ask. And you can ask them now and prep them and make sure that they're going to give us the answers that we're looking for. In the last section, you have the opportunity to add materials. You can, again, non-confidential information only, but this is a good place to put in abstracts, published articles. You may have published patents. This is a good place to upload them. You can also upload a video pitch. A couple of notes about this. They do not, again, provide us a provisional patent, anything that's not published, and know that we do not sign NDAs. So you can't give us something that's confidential and we'll sign it. We just will not. We don't sign NDAs and we don't want to see confidential information. With the video pitch, think about a short video and think about the application and how you could summarize the application and maybe break it up 30 seconds to get through parts 1, 2, and 3, a minute to wrap up the personal statement and the technology innovation statement, and a minute to discuss references, publications, and your commitment to attend the program. Send it to us as a link to a Dropbox. Do not send a large file to us directly. Lastly, we do want to know how you heard about the application and the program. It doesn't impact your application ranking, but we do need to get this answered. You do need to check the program schedule and confirm you're able to attend all of the events. And if you have any special circumstances, this is a place to let us know. We have had people who spent months in Sweden during the course of the program, who flew in and out of Europe and the Middle East. Let us know what that's happening. People are in the process of leaving one job, going to another one. People get private funding and they're moving their office. Someone else is joining your program. Let us know so that we can plan to be able to sort that through. Again, check everything that you submit for spelling and grammar. Make sure all the links work, because that's a particular pet peeve of the screeners, and they're spending 20 minutes. So one of the things that we will let you know is that we have had a debrief with someone who did not get in. They came to a finalist interview, and the problem was that they had some information that a screener really didn't get through, because it was part of a lengthy set of attached documents. So I will tell you that the screeners don't all review all the attached documents. So if you think it's really critical, put it in your answers in the main application form. Lastly, someone asked to see the slide about the video presentation again. So we're showing that now so that you can see that. We are right at 1 o'clock, so we are right on time finishing up. Again, if you have some other questions, know that the application deadline's Monday, October 22nd, 2.5 weeks from now. ABCT is Tuesday, October 23rd. Here are some people that you can get in touch with to ask questions of for New York City. Talk to Brian Pan, bpan@biohealthway.com, or info@elabnyc.com. For the ABCT program, info-abct@designtechnologiesllc.com, or Isabel Alvarez, isabel@designtechnologiesllc.com. So thank you very much. We wish you good luck. If you want to come to any other info sessions, please go to the website. They'll be running into next week. And after that, please get with us. You'll find contact info on the website to follow up and answer questions. Thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate and look forward to seeing your applications. Have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye now.